So you want to be in this group, do you? You want to stand among the ranks of college football? Then you have to earn it. Come with a hunger that you know will never stop.
You're either elite or you're not. That's what we've been saying.
Be consistent, but unpredictable.
Get in the zone.
And the full arsenal on display.
Don't fear falling, because you know how to get back up. Shine a little brighter, stretch a little further, all so you can climb just a little bit higher. Simply put, win. Then win again, and again, and again. Make your case.
Let the carnage and the chaos continue.
Then let the debate begin.
It is Ranking Reactions, presented by Cheez-It, Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. The committee has spoken. For the next hour, we'll yell about it. We'll give some conspiracy theories. We'll rank our own things. We'll act like total professionals while we break down everything that the committee has told us.
Why do we have to yell about it, man?
We don't yell. I think you're the only yeller.
They got it right this week.
Well, that is, and it took like under 6 seconds for you to yard dog the entire
Rankings
poll.
Reaction.
Right.
The committee was absolutely right, and it was really non-controversial for once this week.
Only based on the rankings that had previously happened.
So we're all sitting here, we're watching the rankings come out, right? Like we're just watching everything unveiled. We look at each other afterwards, and Mike's like, yeah, kind of feels right. Kind of feels right.
I mean, I think we knew that Cincinnati was going to be in the top 4 this week. However, it would have been so good if they didn't put them in there.
Do you think, there was no part of you that wondered if Michigan would just suddenly get the love? And
it would be weird.
Okay.
Weird?
I mean, no, it wouldn't have been. It would have been, if that would have happened, then the one thing that we could all say is the committee does not care about Group of 5 teams in any capacity.
You mean we've made it like 3 minutes into the show so far and we haven't had a conspiracy theory yet, Christine? I'm a little disappointed.
Technically,
Proud of you, say. We are proud of you. Yeah.
Not one, but we have to wait till we get to number 7.
Let's show you how the rankings look. At the top of it all, Georgia sitting at number 1. Shocking. At number 2, Ohio State after the absolute shellacking of Sparty from last week. At number 3, Alabama, who did knock off an Arkansas team that the committee still has ranked. So there's
I can say Arkansas very good at football. So
yeah,
exactly.
And that was a pretty decent game. Number 4, Cincinnati, who finally did what we've been asking them to do and just go out and thump their opponent. Not a lot of drama there, but they are now the highest ranked ever team from the Group of 5. So
and they were last week, too.
Yeah, well, we can still say it every week.
Michigan, 3 weeks ago.
Michigan in at number 5 after their win over the weekend. And then rounding out the top 6, because we're back to 6. We don't have to do this, crazy 7 thing anymore.
Yeah, which also kind of weird, right? That we just abandoned protocol now.
I know, right?
I'm not mad at the last team that sneaks into the 6 graphic, but I'm just saying we have abandoned consistency.
Notre Dame finds their way in at number 6. And, I'm sorry. I'm going to be that guy right out of the gate. I mean, I tweeted it on Saturday. We're all going to be really upset in a couple of weeks when we realize that Alabama has lost the SEC championship game. Michigan gets thumped this weekend by Ohio State. Suddenly we end up with Cincinnati at 3, Notre Dame at 4. They're both going to the playoffs.
That's not going to happen. I think it's way more likely for a Big 12 team to get into the top 4 than it is for Notre Dame. Personally. And you know why.
Respectfully. Yes, I know why. For anyone who is unfamiliar here, Christine Williamson has many has theories that mostly revolve around Big 12 teams staying ranked enough to make sure that one of them has a spot.
Right across the street from where the committee meets.
They're just staring in Dallas right here, looking out the windows.
Bob Bowlesby is like knocking on the door every 5 seconds.
Everything good in there? You guys need snacks?
They're just bringing in snacks. Like they bring in like a fancy feast this week.
It's like a Trojan. It's a Trojan horse of Big 12 people, bacon wrapped inside of the latest
I mean, the Big 12 guys are coming in and they're like, hey, we're not trying to influence anything. We just brought a bevy of desserts. We just want you guys to have a perfect visit. But that comes from the rest of the top 10. We should show you this because there's some significance here. Oklahoma State is sitting in at 7. I don't know if we'll show it to you, but we'll try. Oklahoma State sitting in at 7, Baylor at 8, Ole Miss at 9, and Oklahoma at 10.
Why are you saying it if it's not coming up on the screen?
Because I already moved on, so I'm just going to keep saying it and give them the opportunity to catch up with me.
6 right now.
I know we
are they not interesting to you? Cincinnati's made history. Ohio State jumps up this much here just because they happen to have the number 1 passing offense go up against the worst passing defense in college football.
So if we're going to peel back the curtain here, Mike, I'd already moved to 7 through 10, realizing that we were supposed to do something else first. So I was committed to it. So I was giving them time to catch up with me.
I'm trying to help them because they're right and they're smart and you're wrong in this spot.
And he's still mad that I said Pie's trash earlier.
Just because you wore a bomber jacket doesn't mean you get to be right about everything, Jason.
Just because you wore
it. That was a bomber jacket.
Thank you so much. I don't know.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, she didn't say anything complimentary.
Are we in on the fashion now? Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, bomber jackets are the universal solvent, man. Doesn't matter race, creed, age, whatever. You can wear a bomber jacket. There's your 7 through 10.
Now let's talk about how there are 3
I'm no longer interested in this point. Move on now.
Hold on. Let's be real about how we felt about the Big 12 before this week, or even during this week, or the whole entire college football season. Because they've looked here. Oklahoma was typically the at the top of the Big 12, and they looked sus. Now, obviously, things have changed, but you have 3 Big 12 teams in the top 10.
Well, yes, but I think to your point, Christine, we're used to seeing it just be the Big 12 perception is really just what we think of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And now Dave Aranda's got Baylor, who's out here balling, who hands Oklahoma a loss. You've got Oklahoma State, who, I know we've talked about it a bunch this season, but Mike Gundy just completely reinventing the identity of that team on the fly. Think of 3 or 4 years ago trying to explain to your kids that Oklahoma State wins with defense and a steady ground game that takes care of the football on the other side. None of it would make sense. So
I'm only imagining Mike sitting by a crib someday and he's like, let me tell you about Oklahoma State, how they win football games. But you're not wrong. Look, I think that there is a path. But I think that path only exists for one team. I mean, a 2-loss Baylor team is not going to jump Notre Dame, for example, in the college football playoff. And frankly, if Oklahoma wins, they haven't looked good. So even if they beat Oklahoma State, I don't think that that's suddenly going to vault them up. Oklahoma State's the one that has the runway if they beat Oklahoma. But if they beat Oklahoma once, what do they get after that? Oklahoma again.
What did Gary Barta say about 2-loss teams this year? I don't know.
He was talking about Alabama, though. He was protecting Alabama, not Oklahoma State.
But he did say a 2-loss team could possibly be in the playoffs.
Sure. What he meant in parentheses was not in the Big 12. A 2-loss team, parentheses, not in the Big 12 and parentheses.
There are 3 Big 12 teams. That's 30% of the entire conference is in the top 10 of the CFP rankings.
It's almost a third of the entire top 10.
Well, you guys are showing off your big math skills.
Look at the big brain on this one over here.
I'm really good at math. It's really hard to figure out. 3 or what? Never mind.
No, I would say we're going to expose ourselves, Christine, along the line.
I was going a little bit too deep there.
So I'm going to pivot and say this. What have we got to lay out from here on out is what are the stakes here now? Because Georgia controls their own destiny at the top of all of this. Alabama controls their own destiny still here down the stretch. Ohio State absolutely controls their own destiny. Cincinnati, not as much. They're in the top 4 now, but I wouldn't say it is totally out of the realm of possibility for something crazy to happen at this point here. If we were to get the Alabama, plays a barn burner against Georgia, or Alabama beats Georgia somehow, and then you've got those 2 in, you would have the Big Ten champion in, and then you would have this thing that pops up where, all right, do you have a 1-loss Big 12 champion who now, whether it is Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, correct me if I'm wrong, however it splits in Bedlam here, what's the...
So if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, they will play Oklahoma again for the Big 12 championship. Mm-hmm. If Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State and Baylor also wins, then Oklahoma will play Baylor for the Big 12 championship.
So either way, whoever comes out of the Big 12 championship would do so with 2 straight ranked wins. Now, in one case, it would be the same team potentially beating the same team over again, and we don't know how you would score that one at home. but you could potentially have 2 more ranked wins on your schedule versus Cincinnati, who would only have 1 here already. So,
but then you have teams that are possibly coming out of the Big 12 championship with 2 losses.
Well, yeah, listen, I think if you get a 2-loss Big 12 champion, then it's all over here but the crying. So Cincinnati, all right, we'll say controls their own destiny.
Sort of, yeah.
Right.
But they're going to get the potential for a ranked Houston win in the AAC championship game. Michigan controls their own destiny because they get to play against Ohio State in the game this week, College game day. What's up, what's up, what's up? And then you get to go through all that. You probably get a win over whoever comes out of the Big Ten West. I think that's going to be Wisconsin at this point.
Yeah.
So you would have all that. Then you get down to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's sitting there at 6. It's kind of like I liken Notre Dame to whenever Tom Brady has a rushing attempt, I think he just closes his eyes, braces through contact, and then hopes he comes out the other side. That's sort of what's happened. Notre Dame just kind of braced for impact after they lost to Cincinnati, and they wound up here, but they by no means control their own destiny. You're going to play a bad Stanford team this last week, have to beat them the way you beat Georgia Tech and Navy, and then still hope that a bunch of chaos happens on conference championship weekend.
Well, let's get thoughts on chaos from our favorite expert, Heather Dinich, ESPN college football reporter, joins us now. So, Heather, we've just been talking about all of the wild scenarios that could leapfrog Cincinnati. Now that you've seen Cincinnati at 4, how comfortable are you that they can stay there?
We're on a scale of 1 to 10 here.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I'm thinking like 7, maybe 7 out of 10. Look, they're in a great spot right now, right? But at the same time, when you look at what they have down the stretch, which is at East Carolina on Friday, and then a matchup against Houston in the American Athletic Conference Championship game, those 2 things combined probably aren't as good as Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma either twice or Oklahoma and Baylor. If that's the way that works out, I think the most realistic scenario is Oklahoma State if Oklahoma State wins. If Oklahoma wins, they clinch on Saturday. So I just think that when you look at those conference championships and the opportunities that remain, Oklahoma State has a chance to jump into the top 4. But that being said, the fact that Cincinnati got there today speaks volumes about their chance to stay there. It's much easier to get there now and stay there. But look, I will remind people over and over again, very first year, TCU dropped from 3 to 6, and so did everybody's jaws who watched it.
So you're saying that the Big 12 will most likely be the CFP then?
This is why I drink.
Oh, my God.
I just love the conspiracy. I just feel like for some reason, the Big 12 looks very hefty there in the top 10 right now. But I want to talk about Mike Golic Jr.'s team because obviously Notre Dame is sitting at number 6. What is the likelihood that they end up in the top 4 by the end of the season?
I still think it's a really hard path for Notre Dame to get into this thing because, A, you have the head-to-head win against, or Cincinnati has the head-to-head win against the Irish, and Gary Barta, the committee chair, talked today about how it's looked better and better every week, and you've got Notre Dame finishing the season against a 3-8 Stanford team, a week after playing a 3-8 Georgia Tech team. That's a come on, man, right? I mean, there's nothing Notre Dame can do about that except win like they did against Georgia Tech, but without a conference championship, they are measured exactly the same way as any other team that doesn't win its league. That's including a 2-loss Alabama that loses a close game to Georgia. They have to be, quote, unequivocally one of the 4 best teams in the country without that conference championship game. And are wins against Purdue and Wisconsin enough for that? Maybe, but I think they need a lot of help ahead of them.
Yeah, that was really, Heather, where I wanted to go next. This Alabama team finally gets their cage rattled a little bit here. They get a win over an Arkansas team that is still ranked by the committee, but they fall 1 spot after that dominant Ohio State performance. So now is it basically win and you're in or bust for the Crimson Tide like everybody else?
Well, I think Alabama could be in an interesting must-win spot if they lose to Auburn. Nobody's talking about this. What if they lose to Auburn? Then they have to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. And if that happens, you have a 2-loss SEC champ in Alabama. It puts them in a really bad spot, though, because then obviously you've got to beat the number 1 team in the country. So if they can beat Auburn and then play a close game against Georgia, I'm not going to rule that out until we see how everything else plays out, because what happens if Cincinnati loses to Houston? You know, what happens if you do have a 2-loss Big Ten champion? That certainly opens the door to scenarios like that. But guys, look at what we saw from Alabama. There's a reason they dropped a spot. And Nick Saban talked about the defense after that game against Arkansas. They were 10 of 19 combined on 3rd and 4th downs. They gave up too many yards. They made some mistakes on offense. As good as they were offensively, they still made some mistakes. So I think Alabama dropped for a reason, and it happened on a day when Ohio State looked phenomenal.
So we sat here and watched the rankings come out, and we looked at each other and said, actually makes sense. You watched them come out. What was your initial reaction? Was there anything there that surprised you?
Not at all. No, I thought that 1 through 7 was going to be exactly what it was, but I have been saying all week that the committee is at least going to talk about Michigan for that number 4 spot. Cincinnati makes total sense. Their win against Notre Dame is better than anything Michigan has. Gary Barta talked about that Michigan's best win right now is against Wisconsin, which also looks better. But when you look at the two of those teams, Cincinnati undefeated, and they like the win against SMU. That did surprise me a little bit, because they've been very critical of Cincinnati's strength of schedule. And I thought, as good as they looked against SMU, is that really going to change anything in their eyes? And apparently they were impressed with that. So that did make a difference.
Heather, we're always impressed with you. You're the best, my friend. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Have a good Thanksgiving, Heather.
Thanks, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thanks.
Christine, I know social media is all fired up. What do we got here? Any solid reactions yet?
Actually, I feel like they're not as fired up as they usually are, because I feel like everybody else said on the set, like nobody is surprised about the rankings this week.
Everybody came in arguing. Like, it's like you're coming into the Thanksgiving table ready to argue with the one uncle you know it always ticks everybody off, and then you're like, no.
Yeah, because everybody was like, I think all eyes were on Cincinnati. But Brandon says the CFP committee actually made a decent ranking. Take that, Alabama, I guess, because they dropped 1. Number 4, Cincinnati, respect has been earned. Congrats. Your prize is Georgia. Actually, that's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what this all comes back to, right? Is as we look around the rest of the circulating stuff here, Georgia's just been sitting up top there eating everyone alive. Like, I do want to quickly send prayers to Georgia Tech.
Oh, God.
Do they have to play that game?
Is there any shot in your mind that Georgia is already into the SEC championship in their brain and they're not even thinking about that game?
No.
Trap game?
Dude.
They are insane. I feel like that's the one team that, like, I mean, obviously everybody always talks about, oh, you're like paying attention to the next big thing, like you're not focused on. It's Georgia. It's Georgia football.
Yeah, no, they are not playing against, I've said this all year, they are not playing against anyone who is on the field. They are playing against a standard that only they can see off in the distance, and it's against teams that have already played football, already been some of the best defenses of all time. They want that. They don't give a damn about who they're playing against.
There are kids right now that are born that are only going to know Braves and Georgia's success. That's all I'm
Honestly,
saying.
man, think about what Atlanta could turn around. Like, the state of Georgia in a calendar year could completely rewrite their history. Oh, God, I said it out loud.
I want to talk about how the anti-hero life is saying very similarly to, like, what you just said. Love how the CFP committee is setting Cincy up to get slaughtered by Georgia and end the non-Power 5 in the playoff debate.
I mean, but, okay, so a couple of things on that. Whoever is in number 4 is going to get slaughtered by Georgia. And that includes if Notre Dame goes into number 4. And if being slaughtered was a reason to keep you out of the playoff, then we wouldn't even, sorry, Mike, have Notre Dame in this conversation, because
include
it's like
Oklahoma in that.
Oklahoma, I mean, like,
anybody that plays Georgia right now.
I mean, but realistically, we've seen teams go in and just get their butts whooped in the playoff. It doesn't mean that necessarily they can't get back in. So
yeah, and listen, we understand though the group of 5 is going to probably have it held against them a little bit more, but in general, like if you're searching,
Cincinnati doesn't care, they won't be in the group of 5 in 2 years.
So listen, also true, but for the rest of the group of 5 of the world that are coming up in this, like they should not be held any more accountable for that than Notre Dame or Oklahoma or anyone else. If they go out and do what Cincinnati did this year, schedule tough out-of-conference games, continue to use that as a paradigm now going forward, you should get treated the same from here on out. Like Cincinnati has broken through something. You got to have the first to do anything before it's possible for everyone else. Congrats.
Can we also acknowledge that, like, they won't even need a pregame speech? All you have to do for that game against Georgia, if it's Georgia-Cincinnati in the first round, is just play everybody saying, hey, Cincinnati belongs in because they barely lost to Georgia last year in a bowl game. Like, That the number of times I've heard that this year, I can't imagine how fired up Georgia will be for that.
Cincinnati will be fired up too. Like, it's a really good football team. It's just
And it
Georgia.
does suck if they end the season at 4. It does suck that they're playing Georgia, because if somebody wants to say, oh, we're having, like that tweet just said, having the non-Power 5 in the playoff debate, it is not the same thing. It is Georgia. Okay, Georgia's going to run through anybody.
Do you feel different if we end up in my scenario of madness? Alabama's going to be gone from this thing by the time it's done because they'll lose the SEC championship game handily, right? So I'm taking them out of the equation entirely, and I'm moving. That means I'm moving Cincinnati up to 3, and Cincinnati is going to be playing Ohio State. Do we feel any different about Ohio State, Cincinnati?
I still think they're double-digit dogs, but I think it's at least a more fun matchup, right? Because we talked about the mismatch for Michigan State this past weekend. Cincinnati, the overwhelming strength of their defense is on the secondary. Ahmad Gardner inexplicably left off the Thorpe Award finalist. Figure that one out, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you on that, but that would at least be a more fun matchup. Sorry, that one's made me angry.
That was the nerdiest thing, Mike.
I'm sorry. Like, they put his teammate Kobe. Like, Kobe Bryant's a great player opposite him, but Ahmad Gardner's going to be a draft pick.
Not to be confused with Kobe Bryant. It's spelled differently.
Yeah, different spelling,
right.
But for the same reason, named after the late Kobe Bean Bryant.
All right, let's take a look at some of the best of the rest that we've got moving on here from 11 through 15 as we're getting you caught up on everything that's happened in the rankings so far. Again, not a lot of changes or chaos in the top 6 so far, but 11 through 15, we see Oregon
8 spots.
Drops 8.
I mean, you get your butt whooped like that, you're gonna fall.
Oh yeah, that was a good old fashioned what whooping there.
And so was Michigan State, but that was at least a good old fashioned what whooping to the number 2 team in the country. So you could look at that a little bit like
5.
Yeah, I mean, but getting killed by Utah is different than getting killed by Ohio
State. Very true.
We've had this in a couple instances this season. Iowa was really the story of the early half of the year, where you kind of look at a team and you go, all right, this doesn't feel sustainable on here, and eventually, once you finally flush the pipes, you find out where the cracks are.
This is our weekly reminder, too, that the committee likes Wisconsin. I mean, every week we look at Wisconsin and we're like, they just inch right up. They're up one more spot again, up to number 14.
Nebraska gets yet another close loss on their resume as Scott Frost continues his reign out there. They have, I do give them credit. They have played tough in damn near every game they have been a part of here. Wisconsin seems to have remembered how to score points after the midseason fiasco that was, so credit to them.
Do we think that Wisconsin can give Ohio State a game in the Big Ten Championship?
No, but again, really interesting strength-on-strength matchup, dude. Like, Jim Leonard's defense in that Wisconsin Badgers outfit is insane. As many people have pointed out, I'm not an original thought artist here. If it were not for the presence of the Georgia Bulldogs, we would spend a lot more time talking about their defense.
Did you just say thought artist, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're a thought artist.
T-H-O-T.
Good guy. Get me to 16 through 20 so quickly. Get me, please,
Hands
God,
on my
to
knees.
16 through 20.
Hands on my knees.
Oh, I'll do anything at this point.
Brunch.
The next grouping in our top 25 would be 16 through 20.
Is Texas A&M, by the way, that's moving up a spot, probably good for Alabama. Iowa at 16, wow.
Yeah, Pitt moving up to 17.
Creeping.
And Wake Forest also falls 8. Down to 18 after their loss.
Guess who's ranked, though? 8.
One of Christine's many teams that we will get to in the last 5 rankings here. But shout out to Pitt. They have clinched their spot in the ACC title game, which is very exciting for them. What a wild world we live in the Atlantic Coast Conference, where Pitt has punched their ticket already, and on the other side, Clemson is not mathematically eliminated at this point.
Clemson can still be in the ACC championship, and I just love that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. That would take Wake losing to Boston College, right?
I think it is a BC win that has to do that for them, but whatever.
Jeff Hafley can coach some defense.
There's still a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance. Utah, by the way, moved up there also. And then 21 through 25, we get San Diego State. You get your weekly chance.
Meep, boy.
Meep.
There you go.
The triangle.
There's Clemson in at 23.
Thank God, because guess what? This was the first season that they weren't in the CFP rankings, and they completely dropped all the way out of it. So at least they get one little dabble.
Do you go buy a shirt that says congratulations, number 23, or?
I mean, listen, all things considered, man.
But they actually look pretty good.
For them to have a shot and to beat that Wake Forest team that's been damn good all along, like Clausen's bunch has played really good football. one of the more impressive coaching jobs we've seen from Dabo in a while, right? Like, this has been, by all accounts, especially on offense, a broken Clemson team this year. And they're somehow sitting here at 8-3. Like, there is part of me that respects what you've been able to do and the fact that they are still somewhat in this down the stretch. I know part of that's the ACC, but still.
No, and I'll give Christine, I'll give you credit, and I'll give all Clemson fans credit. Like, there were a lot of people, myself included, a year ago that were really wrong about DJ Uiagalelei.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
The number of analysts I talked to here that were like, I'm telling you, this kid is going to come in and light it up, and it just hasn't happened for him. And it's a reminder that it's not always as simple as put a quarterback in a system of success and it will be successful.
Yeah.
Like
It's not always linear either. Like, there's still a lot of talent there with him. I think what he had this year, and this isn't reported or anything, like borders on the yips, right? Like, this just looks like a guy who didn't have that confidence. I think in a year's time we could be telling a very different DJ Uiagalelei story.
And it sucks that the first team that he played this season was Georgia, because can you imagine going out and being DJ Uiagalelei, who's one of the Heisman hopefuls for the season? Everybody's talking about how great he's going to be, and then you go up against the Georgia defense, and you are just like, I'm actually afraid.
Yeah. Please don't hurt me,
Right.
big scary man.
Right.
And it's a really strong point even to make when it comes to the Oklahoma conversation, because I've been particularly tough this year on Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams both for not playing better. But it is there are so many variables to success for a quarterback. And, you know, we look at certain coaches and certain programs and say, okay, this combination is going to make immediate success because that's what we've seen in the past. It doesn't click for everybody the same way. So DJ's somebody that I feel like if he can get it right, it'll be very good for Clemson. If he can't, he might, to the point of the yips, need to go somewhere else to find that level of success. And we've seen a lot of kids do that in today's transfer portal.
And if him and Spencer Rattler do, this is another one of those things. The portal era is fantastic for teams that want to come up in a year because, man, what a change of scenery can sometimes do for someone who's just looking to perform a little bit better.
Right.
Just ask Mel Tucker, who's getting paid off of his ability to go out there and maximize the transfer portal. All right, speaking of Mel Tucker, Michigan State had a weekend. So let's take a look at the CFP Eliminator. It's going to initialize. It's going to find some teams that have been eliminated. They're
It's like the Matrix.
It's Oregon.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. That's a two-bagger.
Oregon, you gone. Sparty, you gone.
Yeah.
He gone.
Now, I'll say this. Very different conversations about the two. I will say, when it comes to Sparty, if you had gone in at the beginning of the year to a Michigan State fan and said, hey, you're going to lose 2 games this year, and you're going to beat Michigan in Mel Tucker's first full year, non-COVID, as the head coach, you are going to have that kind of a year, everybody would have taken it. I think the problem is you get into this like, hey, we're number 7, we belong at number 6. Like, it's easy today to forget where this season started for a team that didn't have a great recruiting class coming in for Mel Tucker outside of the transfer portal, for a team that I think exceeded expectations. If you're Sparty, tip of the hat, hey, this season went better than most expected. Oregon had to come in with hey, high Pac-12 expectations. It's a much different conversation.
Yeah, they have to carry the banner for the conference. Like, right now, the Pac-12 overall is a very different place for that reason.
Right.
But certainly, shout out to both of those teams, by the way. Just named to the Joe Moore Award semifinalist list, Oregon and Michigan State.
Tell everybody what the Joe Moore Award is in case they don't know.
The Joe Moore Award is the annual presentation of the award that goes to the best offensive line unit in college football. In recent past, we have seen units like the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Oklahoma Sooners, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish awarded with this prestigious honor here. It is something that I am very proud to be a part of because it rewards the entire unit. Awards like the Outland Trophy, the Remington Trophy go to individual players on the offense or defensive line. This one is awarded to the entire unit that displays the ability to play together, see the defense through one set of eyes as 5 individuals, and to go out and put that kind of effort, technique, and finish on tape. So congratulations to all of those units. Very cool honor. I know that's something that would have been very cool when I was in school, but it's always nice to see the reaction from current players who have a hand in going out there and putting what they're coached to do on tape in a way that's really, really cool.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yes.
We've got a buddy that you know well, Spencer, that plays in the kickball league, right? And that kickball league won a championship this year in Club Waka. Spencer was the only one that got a trophy. Nobody else got a trophy. If you play on an offensive line that wins the Joe Moore Award, does everybody get a trophy that's part of that offensive line or just the school?
Well, everyone gets a trophy. There's also, though, I mean, the trophy that you get in the offensive line room as a unit takes like an entire offensive line to lift. It is like hundreds of pounds.
Oh, wow.
It is massive. It is a trophy befitting of a group of usually 300-plus pound people movers. And so
I just like people getting trophies that are part of championship units. That's all.
I mean, listen, it's supposed to be a team trophy, too. It sits in your offensive line room. It's about the team,
But then you
Jason.
leave.
Yeah, when you leave, do you get to take a trophy with you of some sort?
Man, listen, see, you know what? This is why you guys, unit of 5 people, seeing things through one set of eyes, one trophy. It's about the team. Team award.
One trophy? I don't know how I feel about one trophy. Like, if the three of us won a trophy, right, we should all get our own, when this show wins a sports Emmy, we should each get our own,
We
right?
would.
Right.
We would each
Yeah, we would each get our own.
Yeah.
And that'd be
we're
great.
still a team.
Yes. And so if we just had one to split amongst us, I'd be proud to share that sports Emmy with you.
I would not. If we only got one, I'm taking it, I'm keeping it,
Or
and
my
they will get
house.
it. No, it's mine. The old man. Like, respect your elders at this point. Like, that's when I play the old man card. All right. It's the only chance I got.
You are old. For everyone that's unaware, Jason Fitz, like a weird vampire man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Time now for Crunch Time, brought to you by Cheez-It. All right, Crunch Time,
hell yeah.
brought to you by Cheez-It. Let's take a look first at C.J. Stroud. Michigan State, Ohio State. C.J. Stroud put on a clinic. I mean, this was like watching video game football. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 touchdowns in the first half. Like, I looked over at one point, and Georgia was beating a cupcake by the same score that Ohio State was beating the number 7 team in the country.
That made no sense at all. We were there. And by we, I mean me. I was looking at you, Mike.
I was going to say, you were looking at me.
With me.
I wasn't there, but I still got to read the stat line where he had 400 yards and 6 touchdowns with 2 incompletions in the first half.
It made absolutely no sense.
Ugh.
Next up, UCLA, USC. Dorian Thompson-Robinson takes off, finds the end zone for 6, but check out what he does afterwards. I love this, right? Runs to a fan, signs a hat. It's a boss move. The refs didn't like it as they flagged him for unsportsmanlike conduct.
The ref is just jealous.
Hating.
Haters gonna hate.
Unsportsmanlike conduct flagged for being too cool.
Right.
We go here to Michigan, Maryland. Look at this catch. I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but this is the absolute go-go gadget arm. I'm going to go. And then make sure that it doesn't move.
Nice sticky fingers.
Absolutely beautiful. Like, the fact that he controls the ball all the way to the ground. When you see from this angle, cradles it in and says, no, sir, it will not move. Beautiful.
Respect. Josh Gaddis, by the way, Michigan's offensive coordinator, nominee for the Broyles Award at the end of the year, goes to the best coordinator in the country. It's award season, man. I like awards. They're fun.
This is.
He knows every single award.
I spent all day being mad online about awards.
I saw all your tweets about how mad you were about certain awards.
I mean, listen, do you want to really get me riled up about the Doak
saw all
Walker,
of it,
Sean Tucker? What are we doing here? Sean Tucker, not a finalist for the Doak Walker. Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, not a finalist for the Mackey. Like, this isn't even a blue gold thing. Turn on the tape. That guy's going to be a millionaire soon.
The Doak Walker thing did not make sense. I talked to Syracuse today, and I can't make that make sense at all. It is Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. People reacting on social. We getting anything good out there?
I actually like this tweet.
Oh, okay. Tell me about it.
Here's the thing. Eventually, 2 lost teams are going to have to be in the CFP. More than one. Like, more than Alabama, okay? Fletcher Keel, a.k.a. at Fletch Topper, says, when do we start the 2-loss Big Ten team in the CFP discourse?
I mean, when it expands to an 8-team playoff or a 12-team playoff, like, that's when a 2-loss team will get into this. Like, we just have too many teams for there to be enough of them.
Play that for a second, though, because think about this. Ohio State, 1 loss to Oregon, right? If they take a second loss in an epic game, the problem is they don't have a Georgia that they'd be playing. Like, Alabama gets the benefit of the doubt because they're playing the best team in the country.
Right.
Somebody would have to lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game in a way that gave them their second loss. Like, there'd have to be another Ohio State in this scenario. That's what doesn't
they needed Wisconsin to be a lot better than they ended up being this season.
Right.
And Wisconsin still ended up pretty good, which just tells you that's a high bar to clear because, again, we have 4 bleeping teams right now. Very hard to do.
Kid the Menace says, Oklahoma should be 3. Sorry.
Based on what?
Yeah, what?
I mean, I'm sorry you feel that way. Would you like to give us some reasoning why? I mean,
I'm sorry you apparently either can't process what you're seeing.
Maybe they meant Oklahoma State. I'm just going to correct that for them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to give Kid the Menace, which, by the way, reading handles aloud is bizarre.
I know, I love it. I actually like calling people by their handle sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's a very, I feel like that's a very sports media thing because we all meet each other online and then usually at some big time event. So,
Right.
Kid Diminish could be a new name for me. I could go with that.
I promise you, there is nothing less appropriate for you than Kid the Menace.
Kid, anything.
Somebody else already has one.
Again, this is Bomber Jacket Fitz trying to make all this happen. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
He's really cool this week. Bill of Whites.
I'm always cool.
It's whites, not rights, but it's spelled WIGHTS.
Well, you could
have because as I was saying that, I was like, wait, let me just
said that out loud and
the rest of the show.
He says, this is for you. Anyone but Notre Dame.
All right. I understand.
I mean, but you agree with that, right? Like, you don't think Notre Dame is one of the top 4 teams in the country.
No, but they could end up as one of the top 4 teams, and it would be no one's fault but everyone else's. Like, Notre Dame would have handled their business, and they would have wound up here at the end of all of this. Like, this is how the sport works. Sometimes you just got to time the way that you win all these things the right way, and it works out well for you here. Notre Dame, listen, again, outside of the top 3 or 4 teams, it's a crapshoot for who could fit into the rest of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a discernible difference between Notre Dame and the other teams we're talking about it being number 4. And anybody that says Notre Dame, anybody but Notre Dame, okay, really? You want to see like UTSA up in there? Like,
I mean, listen.
Oh
first
my gosh,
off,
I'm so glad that you just no.
Yeah, go for it.
No.
Actually,
Never mind.
Slander. It was slander. I will say this though, because everyone just goes, "Well, Notre Dame just got beat." This isn't like I thought we were saying. The committee is not supposed to base it off what we want to see or what's supposed to happen in there. It's supposed to be about who earns their way, who's the best team, yada, yada, all that stuff. Like, you can't just change it up just because a team has been there more than you would like and the result hasn't gone your way. This isn't a resulting business. This is supposed to be a process thing.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Was someone in your ear and you stopped listening?
No, I was eating to cheese it, and I was looking at what was next, and I was processing what you were saying. And then
do we want to get to what's next? Because this is the best part of the show.
Reaction presented by Cheese It. Hey, Mike, you want to have some fun here?
All right, guys. So a little thing happened in December of last year where I realized that big people scoring touchdowns shouldn't be called a big guy touchdown anymore. Shouldn't be pick sixes or anything like that. Why not make it what it is? Call it a thick 6, 2 C's, obviously. And so, College Game Day. Shout out to the graphics folks over at Thinking Out Loud on the SEC Network for dubbing this great photo that got turned into the Thick 6 College Game Day sign.
So good.
My heart was warm. I didn't realize what a premonition this was going to be for what we saw the entire rest of the day. This may go down in history as the girthiest weekend of scoring the football in recorded college football history.
The word girth is weird.
Somebody needs, like, when this segment gets cut and put on social media, that's the quote they need to give us.
Listen, it was
the girthiest.
Tremendous amount of girth, volume on these touchdowns was through the roof here. These were thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, and let's get it started with the biggest and baddest on the block here. Because I respect Kirby Smart for putting his best athlete in the backfield here. You want to bolster the Heisman candidacy for your star defensive tackle, Jordan Davis? Let him tote the rock, flop his way into the end zone. He even got to conduct the band after, guys.
And that man is an absolute. Have you seen him like standing next to other people?
Truly terrifying.
I saw him in real life. I was legitimately afraid. Like, the man is, he's thick.
I see that play, though, and it makes me think of how small William Refrigerator Perry was when he did the same thing.
Speaking of not small, let's check out Oklahoma defensive lineman Jalen Redmond, who swallows this football whole on the run, scoop and score on the fly. Like, those aren't husky trots. Those are strides into the end zone for a large man wearing a small number.
I had a real debate when I saw this at the time. Was he thick enough to be a thick 6?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a backup
offense. You can tell by how
offense.
he runs.
Yeah, he's a D lineman.
It just wasn't,
Let's head to Florida A&M against Bethune-Cookman here and watch their D tackle, Gentle Hunt, incredible name, chugging his way into the end zone. That man was moving, grooving, and he knows how to celebrate in style.
Was that like a dance move?
Oh, man, he had the full convoy, too. That is actually athletic running right there. For a man wearing 92, remarkable.
That's amazing.
That was a hell of a run.
This might be the play of the weekend, though. Check out UMass Dartmouth here. An incredible O-lineman lateral. Tyler Gimmer from New London, Connecticut, CT's very own, catches it on the hook and lateral play on the perimeter right here. And he was not going to be denied. You have one opportunity like this as an offensive lineman in your lifetime.
Right. I just want to, whoever's trying to tackle him, it should just be like, nope.
And the money bank!
I will allow that to happen.
Let's finish this off in style. Shane Beamer's South Carolina squad gets a big-time win over Auburn this weekend, and we get a big-time touchdown from Trey Jones, who, don't let the number fool you, is a reserve offensive lineman who also moonlights as a fullback, who, again, silky mitts, falling down away from it, high degree of difficulty, incredibly impressive, and no butt crack, which is always great.
I'm a little but again, he's not as thick as some of your other thick sixes.
See, you're thrown off by the number, Jason. This is why we put on those eligible jersey numbers, so you don't got to come in and wipe me down to the referee to let him know that you were eligible on the end of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And you're letting that fool you. Open your third eye and see that these thick sixes, among the most impressive athletic achievements you're going to see all season long.
I'm just going to walk into a sports bar somewhere this fall without any context and say I'm here to open my third eye to the thick six and see how it goes.
Honestly, starting to catch on a little bit, man.
I think the thick six for sure. Don't tell anybody you're opening your third eye.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah, no, that's
I'll make the room uncomfortable with that. But
probably
you're right. 6'6" is catching on.
I just like, how many do we have in one weekend? We couldn't even show you Myron Tagovailoa-Amosa from Notre Dame scoop and score touchdown against Georgia Tech. Shout out to the Rights, but, he managed to get that one going, too. So we had even another score that we couldn't show you guys. And then last night on Monday Night Football, we had the first instance in NFL history of a 300-plus pound player in Andrew Thomas scoring a touchdown in the same game where a 300-plus pound player in Steve McClendon notched an interception. We had history across the board. Big, beefy, sweaty, sexy history.
I've got nothing to say to that, so let's show you the top 6. Good God.
The only segment I prepared for.
Presented by Cheez-It. The top 6 in all the land. Georgia, number 1. Ohio State, number 2. Roll Tide, rolling down to 3. Cincinnati moves up to number 4. Michigan, barely on the outside, looking in at 5, but still controlling their own destiny at 6. Notre Dame. It's almost been a foregone conclusion in my mind. Ohio State, Michigan, I feel like Ohio State's a better football team. But I will say this. Part of the reason I felt like Ohio State crushed Michigan was strength on weakness, right? Like, we know how good the passing game is. We know how susceptible the passing defense was for Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Sorry, Michigan State, yeah. So that wasn't like a big revelation. This Michigan offense is capable of running the football. That's not the easiest thing to do. But in theory, if you can run the ball, then you can keep Ohio State's offense off the field. Like, that's the whole, 101 on how to do it. I just don't know if they can. So should I be giving Michigan more credit in this game?
Probably. I mean, listen, offensively, this is as competent as Michigan has been in a while in the Jim Harbaugh era there. We mentioned the aforementioned Josh Gaddis before. But also on the other side, like, Aiden Hutchinson is a game wrecker. You're always going to have a chance when you've got a marquee pass rusher. I think that's why a lot of people looked at Purdue as this interesting recipe disaster for upsets here, because you had a guy like George Karloftic on the other side who is capable of busting the game open at any moment, legit first-round pass rushing talent. Well, that being said, I think Ohio State probably wins by double digits.
Yeah, I feel like that too.
And I know part of it was situational, but I was really surprised Sparty didn't even try to get Kenneth Walker rolling early in the game. It felt like by the time they were trying, it was already 21-0. But it felt like a mistake in the first couple of drives.
He was a little banged up too, so he wasn't playing his best game. So I feel like if he wasn't as banged up, he would have played a lot. He would have had a lot more. But I mean, it was a bludgeoning.
Do we expect a bludgeoning out of Ohio State, Michigan? It feels like no, but I expect double-digit win. But
let me say the other tough part of that is that's a very difficult mental hurdle to overcome for that team, right? Like, we know a recent memory what this rivalry has been, what the game has been. It has been completely lopsided in favor of Ohio State, with the exception of 1 year where Michigan got close and then on a very controversial call ends up losing the game. And so it is hard to get in some of the situations I think they're going to be in because of how this offense for Ohio State's operating, where you can lose that, here we go again feeling that just kind of creeps into your psyche in those spots. It sucks. Like, you got to really catch a couple of breaks early and see the ball go through the basket for you to be able to buy into something like this.
In my mind, Ryan Day went in at the half of that game and just, grabbed his phone and took a link out to one of the reports of Mel Tucker getting $95 million, just sent it to his agent. It's like, seems like a good time to make a phone call. I mean, if Mel Tucker's worth 95, then what is Ryan Day worth? The answer to that is more, but I mean, my God, you got to feel good about that.
Hey, man, listen, right now, Mel Tucker and James Franklin just ran into each other at the bank. Like, you? You too? Great to see you.
Everybody was saying that we really hope that Mel Tucker signed on the dotted line and got that thing figured out before Saturday, but
Listen, Mel Tucker wears shorts on the sideline. He deserves every penny he gets.
That's very true.
One person that always deserves every penny he gets is our buddy Ryan McGee. He joins us now. Ryan, I won't ask you about Mel Tucker and shortwear, and that's okay. We'll start with your reaction to today's rankings. Anything surprise you?
No, I think everybody's falling exactly where they are. I talked to Gojo on the radio earlier today, and I said, it's kind of like Return of the Jedi. Hey, wonder what those starter stories are waiting for. And all of this has been going on all year long, and here we sit. It's Georgia, and it's Ohio State, and it's Alabama, and Notre Dame's creeping in there. But yeah, Bearcats, good on you. We've been waiting on this for a long time. I have no problem with any of that.
I was going to ask you specifically about Cincinnati. What do you think the likelihood is, if they win out of their season, that they remain in the top 4 by the end of the season?
Well, the thing is to look about the teams around them. I mean, everyone's playing everyone. And so if Ohio State and Michigan cancel each other out, and Alabama and Georgia theoretically cancel each other out, then, that's 2 spots right there, no matter, even if the 2 SEC schools stay in there. So, yeah, they're in great shape. And I think that it's a statement because the history of these rankings in a decade has been that they don't like to put teams in there and then yank them out. You go down to Baylor and go down to TCU and ask them about that deal. And so it always felt a lot easier to leave them on the outside, let everybody sort it out, and then put them in there. So the fact that they're in there now, I think, is a huge compliment, and it should be, to what Cincinnati's done.
Ryan, looking at the Big 12, because they're really the outsiders that have a pretty good shot to look in all of this. 3 ranked inside the top 10 here. As you've seen what's gone on in the Big 12 down this stretch of the season, you got any inkling on who you think might actually be able to walk out of Dallas with that Big 12 title and a shot at this?
Well, they just need help. I think that Oklahoma is probably the better team, even with everything they've gone through. But I think it also tells you how Oklahoma dependent this league has been. When they're in the conversation, Big 12's in the conversation. When they're not, they're not. It's kind of how I've always felt about the Pac-12. If Oregon and USC are in the conversation, suddenly it's a relevant conference. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma's the better team. That being said, I also have been talking about Michigan State for the last couple of weeks. So, Oklahoma, I apologize. You're probably going to lose Bedlam because I just did that to you.
Whoa, no.
You're not wrong, too, when you talk about conferences. That's part of what we've been talking about with the ACC and Clemson. Like, everybody says they're bored with Clemson, and then all of a sudden Clemson's not as good, and now everybody's out on the ACC. Ryan, let's get to the important thing. You started with Return of the Jedi, okay? So here's the thing. We get the reveal in Return of the Jedi, that Luke and Leia are brother and sister. But when you go back and you watch the first one, don't you feel like they were a little like you and I are both Star Wars heads. I still goes back and I watch A New Hope, and I'm a little bothered, like it was a little flirty for a brother-sister thing.
Oh, no, they kissed. Like they made out in Empire. So, yeah, no. So, listen, George Lucas is the man. Literally everything in my basement has gone straight to George Lucas's bank account, but don't let him ever tell you that he had the plan in mind, because clearly they were making up as they went. But I absolutely 100% do not care.
Yeah, Christine is very bothered by this, but I'm just saying,
no idea.
This is pre-Twitter. Twitter would have been all up in her. Marvel never would have been able to handle the blowback from this.
No. We would have never survived all this.
I'm older than all y'all. I was sitting in the theater. And when it was revealed, everyone's first thought was the same thing. Wait, didn't he she grab him and kiss him, legit kiss him in Empire? But I'm not questioning anything at this point, because you're talking about my whole childhood, y'all. So stop. I'm gonna call Dr. Phil if we keep talking about this.
We don't need to ruin anything on that regard.
I know nothing about Star Wars.
We're gonna leave that one on the table, and we're going to give us the palate cleanser that we need right here. Ryan, we still got UTSA ranked to the top 25 here. How meep is your meep right now?
I'm so meeped out. Listen, I got the kaleidoscope mic flag, right? I keep that bottom 10 right there for a reason. I wrote about UTSA for so long in the bottom 10 on ESPN.com. I feel like my children are going off to college. I feel like they're getting married. Meep all the way. And I don't care what bowl game they go to. I'm totally calling the bosses and trying to see if I can go. So ROCK and the UTSA all the way.
That triangle travels, baby. UTSA, for what it's worth, we talk about the strength of resume metric all the time that the committee loves. UTSA is 9th in strength of resume as an undefeated team in Conference USA. Now, They are 127th in strength of schedule. We don't got to talk about that. Big time win over the Blazers this past weekend. Ryan, you also are the writer. You saw the bottom 10 there. Who currently residing in the cellar of college football right now? We had a number of firings take place here recently. So what is the bottom 10 area looking like?
All due respect to all this stuff we've been talking about tonight about that other fancy committee out in Grapevine, Texas, the bottom 10 committee will meet next week at a Motel 6 somewhere in the sketchy side of Dallas, because we have New Mexico State and UMass this weekend. It's as if it was scheduled just for us. And so that is the pillow fight of the year, of the century, part due. To Electric Boogaloo. So this is the biggest game of the year. All due respect to UConn earlier in the year, they're like Michigan State. We didn't talk about them anymore. It's time to think about UMass and New Mexico State for all the marbles, and it's a bag of broken marbles that we bought down at a garage sale. But that doesn't matter. It's still for all the marbles.
From the people that brought you the land grant trophy comes whatever you win for winning this matchup coming up here. Ryan, I never thought it was going to be possible to top the UMass-UConn game from earlier. I am so happy for you and the rest of the bottom 10 committee that you get this great gift, my friend.
No, it is, and I love natural regional rivalries, and that, of course, is what UMass and New Mexico State is. You can't argue with that.
Ryan, you are the best, my friend. Don't kiss your sister, and keep watching Star Wars. Thanks for hanging out.
Oh my God.
I'm going to get the turkey leg.
Happy Thanksgiving, Ryan. Why did you spend so much time talking about weird Star Wars?
Because he brought up the Star Wars thing, and it's rare that I get to talk to somebody else that's a big Star Wars fan that remembers it being in the theaters at the moment, because I, like Ryan, am also an old guy. I remember it and tried to figure out how it played out in the moment, seeing if he remembers it the same way.
I don't.
I miss the days where we were accusing the committee of ranking teams in certain spots for conversation, because we gave Jason Fitz an inch and he took a mile of brother-sister kissing.
I have sat on radio with you where you have just gone deep dive into Marvel and my eyes are glossing over and I have no idea what characters you're talking about. So forgive me for spending a minute and a half trying to figure out if Luke and Leia were making out before everybody knew they were brother and sister. Do you have some social?
But if it happened, then it happened.
I didn't remember.
What's done is done. Are you going to invest or not?
I remember in New Hope there was a kiss on the cheek, but I always sort of blew that off as like a good luck kiss, like you just want to negotiate.
I will say I do think, even though I'm not that much of a Star Wars fan, I'm getting it together because I did try to watch it last year. It didn't really work out, but I have more chances to happen.
It didn't work out. What, did it wrong you or something?
Christine, do you have any social media tweets to save us from Jason pulling us down into the depths of this Star Wars braised hell?
Cincy deserves to be top 4 there. I said it, from Nat, a.k.a. Packer_Nat12. Congratulations, Nat. You might as well be in the committee.
What a bold take. In the week they're finally ranked in the top 4. Where were you?
They deserve it. Did you not watch any of the games last week? We know. Okay, let's see. Hashtag CFP Playoff just cherry picks which games count based on the narrative they want to fulfill. SDSU's SOS should have skyrocketed with Utah's bludgeoning of Oregon. Thus, their rankings should as well, yet they go backward. Explain that to me.
Well,
okay. I didn't know what kind of argument he was about to say.
That was a long one. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a long, winding tweet on there. I will say this is a good reminder as we get to this point in time in year. And Jason, we talk all the time about sitting through these mock committee exercises here, that all of the bowl games are determined based off the college football playoff committee's rankings here. And where you end up at the end of the season for each conference's unique bowl ties and how all these things shake out for the New Year's 6 games, where usually this is the other interesting part of the Cincinnati conversation is usually highest ranked group of 5 gets their ticket punched to a New Year's 6 game. Now all of a sudden we deal with them and the possibility that they are in the college football playoff. And so everything kind of jumps up a little bit, and thus a lot of these back end of the top 25 rankings become really important for all those reasons. So you can understand people being upset about a San Diego State situation that I do not know enough of the specifics about, and so I am deflecting with larger, more broad information.
I like that. By the way, you mentioned that. We haven't even talked about the fact that Ole Miss is ranked so high. Ole Miss is a New Year's 6 bowl. I mean, it's there for them. Ole Miss is going to get paid in a high-platform bowl game. Kudos to what Lane Kiffin has done there. Because
in an offseason where Lane Kiffin's name is going to be linked to a whole bunch of these new open jobs, except for the one in Southern California, I think the tarmac ensured that will never, ever happen in a million years.
I want to read this one because I think this is a fun one. His name, first of all, is Jimmy Comfort, presented by Jimmy Comfort. I still remember when people were asking why Boise State was playing in the 2007 Fiesta Bowl. They shocked the world that night, beating Oklahoma. There is no proof a Group of 5 school can't win in the college football playoff.
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying that there is.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, everybody gets so twisted in the proof in the past and all these things. Like, the committee is charged with the very simple thing. Find the 4 best teams this year. Like, and so it really doesn't matter what it shouldn't matter what the Group of 5 has done in the past. Shouldn't matter what Notre Dame has done in the past. Like, they're not charged to look back at past matchups to see how they fare in current playoffs. They're charged to look at this year and say, who are the 4 best teams? And if they believe Cincinnati is one of the 4 best teams and the Group of 5 has been beat by 100 in every game they've ever played, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what Notre Dame usually does in the playoffs. That stuff is not supposed to be considered. They're only supposed to look at this season for the 4 best teams.
Your point was so passionate, well articulated, you misconstrued what he said. He was arguing in favor of Cincinnati. Just keep eating the cheeses. We're about to do a more important rankings list anyway here.
He was saying there's no proof that Group of 5 cannot win the CFP.
Nailed it. Anyway, have we now arrived at the portion of this program where we can do a more important list of rankings?
I think we're going to rank some stuff.
Wait, what are we ranking?
It was my list this week. Top 6 ways to ruin Thanksgiving as we are nearing the Thanksgiving holiday here. I'm hoping we're going to start 6 to 5 here. Can we call up number 6? Number 1, shout out to my fellow singles. Relationship
it's gone
questions.
Up 2.
Yeah, no, it's moved up into here. But to point out, we should be ready for this. We have absorbed enough memes. You don't have to take any flack from your twice divorced cousin who's not even 30 yet here. You can fire back at them and hurt their feelings too.
But your family knows everything about you. Like, I'm pretty sure that your mom knows your bowel movement schedule. So, do you really have to answer any of these?
Well, no, it's because I keep it in a record book and email it out in a Google Doc to the family.
I never get asked about relationship questions at my family gathering.
Really?
No.
Lucky.
I'm trying to think. No, people don't ask me about relationship questions.
Really? Well, honestly, falling into this too is like anything too personal. Like, don't ask anybody if they're pregnant at this. Don't ask anybody why they're having kids. Like, don't do any of that stuff. Stay away from all of it.
Are you pregnant? That's actually rude. This is turkey, okay?
Yeah, that is very rude here. Like, there is no circumstances where I'm going to ask anyone I ever meet if they are ever pregnant here. All bodies are beautiful.
Hilarious?
Oh, no.
This is the funniest story of my mom's life. She one time literally touched a woman's belly and said, I didn't know you were pregnant, and the woman was not pregnant.
No, oh my God. No. My absolute worst nightmare.
Isn't that awful?
Did she just
I
leave?
didn't know you were pregnant, and she was like, I'm not. Isn't that great?
Did she just take her things and go? At that point, like, I just leave.
I mean, you would hope so.
Number 5.
So
bringing an unsanctioned guest. Showing up there with like a significant other that you haven't vetted with the rest of the family yet. This is not your place to make a grand entrance with a person you are not sure anyone there likes.
That's also really awkward.
But again,
what if you rent a significant other in order to avoid relationship questions?
Rent?
Wait.
Have you never seen that?
I'm still a little like
that people like rent boyfriends and girlfriends.
I think that has a different name.
So Star Wars was weird, but escorts at Thanksgiving
Number 4! Hey, listen, as long as everyone's consenting adults, burning the food. And this actually goes back to a story that has more to do with Christmas, but it's the same basic theory. My younger brother Jake was put in charge of guarding the Christmas ham when my mom was cooking it. The rest of us went to go see a movie. Seeing Wolf of Wall Street with your mom and grandmother, not something I advise for anybody. While that happened, Jake was supposed to take the ham out of the oven. He fell asleep and did not, burned the entire ham and burned the whole ham. My mom opened the oven to a plume of black smoke. It was not a new pope, it was a burnt ham. And so now all of a sudden we had that ruined. So don't be the person that ruins Thanksgiving.
Again, though, a couple of missteps here. Like, I know Jake. I can't believe you guys trusted Jake to actually get the ham out.
First mistake.
That is a mistake there. And 2, Wolf of Wall Street's not a short movie. Like, maybe
No. Yeah. And as you mentioned, it has an open scene that is very uncomfortable to be sitting between your sister and grandmother for.
Yeah. Nope, not doing that.
Number 3! Don't bring a healthier option. I have come here to this Thanksgiving table to sin.
Nah. I one time tried to do a vegan Thanksgiving. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait, was it healthy though? Like, vegan doesn't mean it's healthy.
It was not good.
Okay.
Not good or not healthy?
It was not tasty.
Yeah, see, that's my point is like, this is like when they put calorie counts at the movie theater when I go there. I walked in here knowing I was going to do bad stuff to hurt my body here. I am walking into Thanksgiving to try and eat so much that I crack a rib. I don't need your healthy option.
I tried to do macaroni and cheese with like cashews and like that kind of stuff. It was just like not
Cashews
great.
are a good nut though.
Yeah, but like if you blend it up with like yeast, nutritional yeast.
Yeah. Oh my God. I never want to eat Thanksgiving. Can we get to number 2 before I dry heave? Number 2, 2024 election.
Oh, that's a good one.
Please God, don't ask your aunt about what she just posted on Facebook. You don't want to know. I don't want to know. Stop. I don't need to know where you did your research. Don't do it.
I can't.
Get your booster shot.
If that's number 2, I can't wait to see what number 1 is, because that's
I'm
what
nervous.
the awkward nod is
Yeah, just stay away from that. Number 1. You can't wear pants with a belt or button.
I honestly didn't know what was going on there.
That's a very strange graphic here, but don't do it to yourself. The elastic waistband was handcrafted by God for this occasion here.
Yeah.
If you are going to a Thanksgiving where they expect you to dress up, you are going to the wrong Thanksgiving.
How many turkeys are usually at the Thanksgiving around the Golics? Because you guys are not small people.
The bird is a minority, part of this conversation
I
here.
agree with that.
It is about
Turkey
the size.
is not good.
I am here to mash rolls, to crush green bean casserole, and to eat an entire pumpkin pie by myself. Pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie taste the same.
No.
They're more or less the same thing.
I mean, I can understand why you would think that, but there's a clear distinction between the two.
Well, yeah, they just
One
have
is
it.
pumpkin and one is sweet
They have a
potato.
different name.
This is the type of
They're
analysis you
different.
only get right here.
They're different.
That is.
They're
So
very
you're
different.
telling me that sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie are
They
not
are
the same
two
thing?
very different things. One is a little bit more gelatinous, and the other one is a little smoother.
Guys, I don't want to bury the lead here. One has pumpkin and one has sweet potato.
I already
They're
said
very
that.
different ingredients.
I already said that.
I didn't hear
They're
that.
both orange.
Well, they're both.
No, one is a
orange.
little bit more brown.
Brownish orange.
One's like a orange, one's more like a burnt orange.
Look, what I know is you should take the chance to hug your family, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We really appreciate the fact that you guys choose to give us a little of your time around the holidays to talk stupidly about all things college football. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that work their butts off to make the show happen. So, on behalf of all of us, happy Thanksgiving. Have a safe, warm, wonderful holiday. This has been Rankings Reactions presented by Cheez-It, Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. Come back next week. There'll be chaos, I know, and there'll be more stories about pie.
Hopefully.
Maybe
Still stretchy pants. I don't know.
or more fat guys scoring touchdowns.
Don't kiss your sister.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
gosh.